just a story, every voice a song. Drew asked the questions, right where they belong. With passion in his eyes, he dives deep inside. The truth comes alive, there's no need to hide. Tune in, feel the vibe, it's where we belong. Welcome to the Drew Carey Show, let it unfold. Where hearts are laid bare, and stories are told. From laughter to pain, the journey is real. On this vibrant stage, we're ready to heal.
Wow. Wow. So you meet at church. Tim says, "This is my wife." Not because I think you're fine and beautiful, which you are, but God said, come on, somebody. God told this man that this is his wife. When you all finally realize that this thing is serious, and it looks like we're going to walk down the aisles, what was that like for you? You talked about coming out of a broken marriage. You've got kids. Did you have kids? You had kids.
3 kids.
And so now you've got to introduce kids to a new man. How was that transition? How did that work?
You know what? When I first met him, everybody turned on me.
Wow.
They turned on me because my family wanted me to live the life they wanted for me, right, not the life that I wanted. And I always did what everybody wanted me to do. And I think when I got with Tim, I found out who Robin was. Not, they told me, my sister says, you got to go meet this guy. You're not married. You got to go with me. So everybody told me what I needed to do.
Right.
Well, God used, see that God can use whoever He want to use, and He used your sister such a time as that to finish what He had started.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I truly believe Proverbs 21:1. God said that He can turn the hearts of men and women like He turned the waters in the river, any which way He chooses. Mm-hmm. And so I think that at that time he was using more people, to
definitely
to talk to you and to draw you in while He was turning some things.
Definitely, how I was raised, I don't know if it's a Southern thing, whatever, but because I got married and I had my children, I was told I could never get married again. I was going to go to hell. Mm-hmm. Could never get married again. So I had that fear. I had the fear. And even though I was bold enough to get engaged to another man, I was never going to marry him because I didn't want to go to hell. I didn't want to go to hell. I was just that scared. I was not going to marry him. But with Tim, it was different. With Tim, it was totally, it was different. I prayed about it, a lot of prayer, because I didn't want to go to hell. I didn't want to disappoint God. But the Lord let me know, Robin, when you first got married, you were not saved. And the word of God said that when you become saved and you give your life to God, you are a new creation. Yes. All things are new. The old things have passed away. Yes. Now all things have become new. And when God spoke that with a lot of fasting and prayer, and it was, my heart was light. I knew that I can go ahead and I could do this. And so we just said one day, why don't we just get married? Why don't we get married? And we did.
I know that had to be pretty scary. You say always having those voices in your ear, your head, those people around judging your every move. Been married before, it didn't work out. And, with the church, especially the older generation, one failed marriage is doomed.
You're doomed.
You're doomed. When did it break for you? Because you just said that you said, forget it. I'm living for Robin.
I'm living for Robin.
When did it break?
I remember when my family, they turned on me, because now Robin is thinking on her own. Mm-hmm. Now Robin is doing on her own. Now Robin got a good man. It was all known. Oh, she got a good man. This man gonna treat her right. She got a good man. He's known. He's known. He works. People had already summed it all up. I even had a prisoner who was in jail for about 20 something years who did something. And he called me, had a nerve to call me and said, oh, wait a minute, baby girl. Do you know who you getting in a relationship with? Are you a prisoner? You're a prisoner. You know, he this and this and this. He don't play. He don't play. Tim, before God saved Tim, Tim was a bad boy. Yeah, Tim was a Matt Dillon, but he wasn't Matt Dillon for God. Tim was a bad boy. Tim walked around with a trench coat and a double barrel shotgun and would shoot you in a minute. Matt Dillon ain't had nothing on him. I didn't know him during that time. And had I known him, God didn't. We never met. I heard rumors of him. I heard rumors how he would clear out a club because he'd be that one shooting up, showing out. But when God saved him, God saved him. Yeah. But I knew that I would be safe with him because there were times that I was not even safe, even at work, because my ex-husband, he would come and he'd fight me. He'd come to my job. He just thought he can do whatever he wanted to do to me. The police would not stop him. He'd come take my children from me. He just do anything. He had his girlfriends to try to fight me. I mean, just anything imaginable that he thought that he could do to me, he did. But when I got with Tim Burch, Marsha Dillon, nobody looked at me. Nobody tried to hurt me.
Wow.
You know, honey, you know, I kind of felt like this. You know, like when we got together, you know, and you was asking Pastor Drew about you know how the things break. You know, I kind of saw it like this. You remember when Abraham, he told Eleazar, and he told him to swear to him. He wanted him to go and get Isaac a wife, but Abraham gave him the condition on how to identify the wife when he found her. So when Eleazar got to the relative house and he met Rebecca, met him at the well, she done, in other words, she identified with what Abraham told him what to look for, and he found what Abraham told him to look for in Rebecca. So, but when it came to, and he came and he told Rebecca who he was and what he come to do. And when Rebecca got before her father said, "Are you gonna go back with this strange man?" Rebecca said, "Yes, I'm going back with this strange man." And you know, and so when people ask you, "Robin, you gonna go with him?" and you said, "Yes, that's what the Spirit of God." See, when God is in something, you know, you bring a peace about it. You bring a peace about it, and you can.
He took those 3 babies. To this day, nobody knows unless we tell them that these babies are not his. He raised these babies. He's been not only, and when we got married, I said, listen, you're going to have to take all of us, not just me. We are a package deal. You got to take all of us. And he did, and never looked back. But that was the breaker for me. He said something. This is what he said. One day when they really sat me down and my family, and they was like, now, you know, well, we're going to send this. I'm going to call him T. He's a good man. He's a good man. And now you leaving him for somebody you don't know. That boy used to do this. That boy used to do that. And I remember telling my daddy, I said, but daddy, so you saying God can't change somebody? You saying God can't turn a person around? That's what you're saying? I said, trust me, I wouldn't have my kids in harm's way. I wouldn't put me in harm's way, but this is what I want. And daddy said, well, this is what you want. Okay. I said, just trust me. And in the midst of them, they didn't understand because they was comfortable. Now, T treated my mama the way she wanted her sons to treat her. Mm-hmm. So she fell in love with that part of him. Yeah, okay. And I stayed, and I think we stayed sometimes because the family loved him. Mm-hmm. You know, they loved him. But I knew that that wasn't going to be my husband because not that he was a bad person, he was a good person. But he'd never been married before. He didn't have children. I didn't want to have any more children. And I didn't want to take his life. I didn't want to take that part of him. And so sometimes you got to love people enough to let them go.
Absolutely.
Because that it wasn't going to work for me like that. But when I met Tim, it was different. He was my safe place. All my running time was over. All the tormenting time was over. All that stuff was over because I'd been tormented. This one man tormented me. He thought he was going to continue to torment me. And there was nobody that would help me. Even the police wouldn't help me because he was good friends with the magistrate's son and all this stuff. So in a small town, you can do whatever you want to do. And everything was great because of the family he came from. And everybody thought that, and they might be on here watching. And, you know, it's okay because I've stayed silent for years and I'm not going to be silent anymore because this is my story. This man saved me. This man literally saved my life. My life.
So did you ever have to, Tim, did you ever have to have a little chit chat with old boy?
We had a conversation, one little short conversation, you know, and you know, and he knew me, you know, and you know, and there had to be a line that had to be drawn, you know what I'm saying, and he knew you walk over this line, it's over. You know what I'm saying? If you walk over this line, but I respect you, and I told him, you know, you could come here and see the kids, and the kids do whatever you need to do like that. That's good. I don't have no problem with that. I said, but how you talk and deal with her? I mean, like, that's my wife now. So you have to be very careful about how you talk to her now. You can't talk to her any kind of way because she ain't yours anymore. She's one of me. Like, that's my queen right now. You can't disrespect my queen and then live. You lose your head, boy. You lose your head. You know, so he understood that. Yeah, I know.
Hey, Tim, I'm saying. But I ain't forgot.
Yeah.
I ain't forgot how to take care of business.
Well, you know, that's, you know, I tell Robin, I joke with. I said, listen, I said, you know, the old man is still here. He's just restrained. He's under restraint of the Holy Ghost, but he's still there now. If I need to release him, he can be released, but he's under restraints of the Holy Ghost. So it's not that the old man disappeared.
How long did it take the family to warm up to Tim?
They instantly, after that, they found out that I was not going to be controlled. I was going to follow my heart and do what I wanted to do.
God.
It shifted.
Yeah. The God was shifting.
Shifted. Everybody just fell in love with him. You know, it shifted because they saw that this was good and this was God. But one thing they saw, she's standing up for herself. She's not because, you know, I didn't want to make waves. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to make waves. And then, but this is what I wanted to do. And I remember he sent me a card. I still have the card. And he wrote me a card one night because we were sitting there. He knew that my family was in odds and everything. And he said, if you don't want me, that's one thing. But if you don't want me because they don't want you to have me, it's another thing. He said, but if you choose me and give me a chance, I'm going to take care of you and your children for the rest of your life. You won't ever have to want for anything, or you won't ever have to feel sorry that you chose me.
Wow.
And I thought,
that's beautiful. So when the movie come out?
I don't know.
Where's the movie? Wow, that's good. So you guys moved from Georgia to New York. How'd that come about?
Our daughter, the oldest, she's an actress. So she came to New York right out of high school. And she had her first and only baby. And the other two, Tim and I have helped raise our other two children's babies, grandkids, our grandkids. So she was getting ready to have her baby. She wanted mama to come up. And so I was supposed to initially come for 2 weeks. But when I got up here, my baby needed me. And so I talked with Tim and I was like, I'm going to stay another a couple of weeks. Then that turned into, we met because it was like in October. Then we met again in December. The family came together in December. Well, I'm going to stay to April. It's been 7 years. So I was here a year before Tim came up because of Tim's injuries, that we had to get everything together for doctors and all this for him to be able to travel. But Tim would come to New York or I would go to Augusta. Yeah. And that's how we did it for a year. And God grew me up some more. He grew me up some more. So that's how we got here in New York. It'll be Tim came up a year after. He said God told him. Initially, he was like, I'm not coming. He would always say, I'm not a city boy. I'm a country boy. I'm not coming to the city. But then that day he called me and he said, the Lord told me it's time for me to come. And he came. And we've been here, like I say, 7 years.
Wow. So how you like New York, Tim?
It's grown on me. And it's not like what I thought it was going to be. You know, the old saying about, you know, you can't judge a book by its cover, but you got to open up and read it. So New York wasn't what I was told all my life it was. You know, you know, a few things, but not all. And, and I believe this. I believe that life is what you make out of it. You know, God spoke to me one time and said, you know, He said, I can send you anywhere in this world and you can survive. As long as you stay connected with me, you can survive anywhere in the world you go. So,
wow. Let's go back to the accident. Tell us, waking up that morning, Tim, and going to work, and tell us that story.
I never forget that moment. It's been a little over 11 years ago. But I got up that morning, you know, as normal. Got up, you know, me and Robin, we prayed together, and you know, that's what we do every morning. You know, devotion. We had a little morning devotion before I even go to work. I prayed, and you know, and I got in the car and left and went to work, and you know, just like a normal work day. Had no idea that day that my life would never be the same. My life, not only my life, but Robin's life, my family life, everything was changed forever that day.
Wow.
And you know, so I don't, I can't remember anything on right up to when the accident happened. I don't remember.
Robin, how about you when you got the phone call that something had happened to Tim at work?
That day was so crazy because it was so different than any other day. He would always pray, we do morning devotion. He'd go crank up the car while the car is running. He'd come back in, he'd give me a kiss. He said, I'll call you when I get to work. We're the type of people, we talk to each other 3 and 4, 5 times a day. Not because we keep in check on each other, but we like each other. Yeah.
Right,
you know, I got to work, honey, I got to work. And so that morning he went to crank up the car. He didn't come back in. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. So when I looked out the bedroom window, which was out where the bedroom window was on the side to where he parked his car, and he was gone. And I thought, and at that time we've been married 19 years. I said, he hadn't did that in 19 years. I don't know whether to be angry or what. He never told me he was gone. So I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, and a voice said, today is the last day you'll see him alive.
Wow.
And I sat back down trying to process it. And I said, okay, well, I'll just tell him when he called me to be extra careful. So I went back outside on the deck and I started doing exercise. I was exercising. I was doing a challenge then, exercising. And I remember coming back in and I was just so tired. And I went to the other bedroom where we had for the grandkids and there were stuffed animals on it. I didn't even move the stuffed animals. I just fell on top of the animals. I woke back up. It had to be 12 o'clock. And I thought, oh my goodness. Did he call me? I'm checking to see if he called me. So I'm going outside. No, he called me because that day he always worked out of town. He owned his own construction company. He's a builder. So he always worked out of town building stuff. And so he had stopped when we moved to Augusta and he was home with me. And so the kids were grown. It was just me and him living in a cottage in the middle of the woods. And so he was going to go back out. A guy he trained started his own business and he needed Tim to come help him. Tim was working on the courthouse, building the big clocks on the courthouse. And so the cornerstones hadn't come. So Tim was going to go out of town. I didn't want to tell Tim I didn't want to be there in the middle of the woods by myself. I was scared. So I didn't say anything. So I go outside. Well, Tim called me and he says, hey, baby, how you doing? I said, good. He said, I see you. We was looking for a worship song for about a year. We couldn't find the worship song. I found it that morning. So I was playing it. He said, oh, you found our song? I said, yeah. He said, well, Leah is coming over to babysit you. That was our 4-year-old grandbaby. Leah is coming over to babysit you, right? I said, yeah, she's coming over to babysit. He said, okay, well, I got to go. I thought that was unusual. I said, he's never been quick like that with me. I don't know whether to be mad or what. First he leaves this morning, then he's quick to get off the phone. What is going on? So I forgot to tell him to be careful. So I go out in the yard. This is 12. I go out in the yard. I get caught up in worship. I'm just singing. When I came to myself, I said, oh my goodness. I thought I was out there 30 minutes. I come to myself and said, let me check my phone. It was 3 o'clock.
Wow.
Me and God was having a good time. 3 o'clock. I answered the phone. I had so many messages. Robin, this is Malik. Tim has had a accident at work. Robin, it's okay. He's all right. Robin, I need you. Then he said, no, Robin, he's not okay, Robin. I need you to call me. Then the guy he was working for, training, and had his own company, he was working for him that day, postman for 3 days. So he goes and he said, Robin, Tim has been in an accident. I need to talk with you. The next phone call was Miss Burch. This is the liaison at the hospital. Your husband is in the emergency room. We can't talk over the phone. We need you to get here as quick as possible. I turned to mush. I turned to mush. I'm walking around in the house. I don't know what to get. My hands won't move. Who do I call? What do I do? What do I do? I'm trying to get myself together. I'm not going to be able to drive because he was out of the state. He was 3 hours away?
About 2.5
hours away. So at that time, my daughter here in New York called and she said, Mama, and I had to tell her the call I got. And she was like, Mama, no. She said, hold on, I'm gonna get a car. So she arranged a car. Her managers arranged a car. They got a car for me. At that time, me getting ready to leave, my daughter was coming. She was bringing the baby. Everybody met at my house at the same time. Then my daughter called back and she said, Mama, I kept pestering him. He doesn't have a face, Mama. He doesn't have a face. And she just screaming and crying. I'm like, oh, Lord. So long story, they take me. We get to the car, the driver that my daughter had to take me where he was. It seemed like the longest trip. But I remember I got my Bible. I'm reading it. And the Lord took me to Psalm 91:1. 911.
Wow. 911.
911. If you ever in trouble, dial 911. Psalm 91:1. And I read that and the Lord spoke to me. He said, don't be dismayed by what you see. He said, I'm going to do a quick work. I'm going to raise him up. Many shall see and turn to me. That's all he gave me. I wasn't prepared for what I was getting ready to see. It seemed like that trip took 8 hours. We finally get there. The liaison is waiting on me. And she said, Miss Burch, we couldn't do the surgery because they were going to do a surgery. She said, we need you to talk. They carry me in a little room. And when they carry you in that little room, you know what's getting ready to happen. Yeah. And they said, this is the thing. Said, he got hit in his face. It broke every bone in his face. And I still couldn't understand what he was doing because I'm like, what were you talking about? He got hit in his face. They thought it was a jackhammer. And they thought the jackhammer ricocheted something and hit him in his face. And they said when it shattered, because every bone in his face was broke. So when the jawbones came back, they internally dissected both of his carotid arteries. They said, Miss Burch is so close. There's an aneurysm so close to the back of his head. If we do surgery, he can throw a clot and he can die. They said, but if we give him blood thinner, he's too broke up. He'll bleed out. They said, but this is what we're going to do. If he's in there in the morning, he's going to have surgery. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking? They said, if he's in there in the morning, they said, it's bad, Miss Burch. It's bad. They wouldn't let me see him at first. We went to the ICU, the trauma ward. They let everybody else go see their loved ones. They wouldn't let me see him. When I got back there to see him, he didn't look nothing like my husband. But the room was so bright, and we talk about it in the book. That room was so bright in there. I knew, and I said, Lord, if he go home today, he's won. If he stay here with me today, he's won. But Lord, if you just would leave him here with me. I felt guilty to even ask the Lord to leave him here because of the peace and the brightness in that room, like a celebration. And I just said, but Lord, if you would, just leave him here with me. He stayed in a coma for 2 weeks. He woke up that morning. We all slept on the floor of the ICU waiting room. My son-in-law came from New York. My brother came. Everybody met at the same time. My daughter was receiving a Tony Award, so she couldn't come. She flew out the next day. We all met. We all slept on the floor, and I can remember having a vision. And there was this big angel sitting on the bed where he was holding his head. Because they told me in that room, said 3 things has to happen before we do surgery on him in the morning. The bleeding on the brain has to stop. The swelling has to go down. And the brain, if the brain don't shift, then we can proceed to do the surgery. Well, when I had the vision laying on the floor, there was this big angel, and it had his hand on his head as it was holding his head. Still.
All right. Look at God.
And when I come to myself, they were calling me and said, Miss Burch, come and kiss him. Goodbye. They said, no, not like that. We're going to take him into surgery. It's going to take 6 hours. He said, I'm going to do what I can do, but it's in a higher power hand. So they went in and they did that first surgery was 6 hours. And when they went in, they sutured his eyes shut, sutured his mouth shut. They put a breathing tube because he couldn't breathe. They put a feeding tube in him. Now, when he has over 100 titanium screws in his face.
Wow.
When it hit, because the steel rod, we can't tell you where it was, but he was doing some work and a guy was driving a forklift. They were picking up railroad tracks, these big railroad tracks.
The jackhammer he had
was made onto the machine.
It wasn't a regular jackhammer. This jackhammer was made onto a backhoe.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was.
And so he had it on the thing. Whatever he was doing when he passed by, they don't know if Tim was tying his shoes or whatever, but that big pole hit him in the face. And they said when it hit him in the face, it knocked him out. Wow. But when it knocked him out, he come back too. And they had to fight because the fight or flight, he was trying to get up, but his face was just laying open. But the thing about it, he was 5 minutes from a brain injury hospital.
Right. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. Alton Davis, thank you, man, for jumping on, supporting Darrell Thomas. Hey, Thomas, what's going on, man? My sister is on.